This is Sarah Scully.
And Will Robbie with IFC News. The 2008 election is already well underway and may go down in history as the most important of our time.
If you haven't been paying attention, we're going to catch you up on some of the highlights from the first leg in the race to the White House.
So let's find out what makes electoral politics the most fascinating reality TV there is.
There's nothing more fun than presidential campaigning. It's everything. It's psychodrama, it's people, real people, it's politicians, it's a contest. Somebody wins, somebody loses. There are huge stakes. There are also petty little feuds. It covers the whole panorama, I think, of not just American politics, but American society.
It's a little bit cliche to say, that this is an important election and, we haven't seen an election like this in a long time, but this one is. And the issues are important, the times are important and dangerous and challenging. And we haven't had an election this open in almost 100 years.
I think it's the most momentous presidential election since 1896. We've had a situation before where there's been no incumbent, but here you're really voting on the direction of the country.
But I think that it's important to a lot of Americans in that people feel that there's a lot of insecurity about the future. And there's a lot of compelling people running for president. I think that makes it a whole different dynamic this time.
Happy New Year, everybody.
I think it's the most fun thing I've ever done.
I feel very good about my chances.
The only thing more difficult than running for office is to be married to the guy who does.
Will you give a shout out to the Independent Film Channel?
What do I say? This is Bill Clinton. Hey to everybody watching the Independent Film Channel.
Governor Huckabee's campaign said he'd like to knock my teeth out. And I have only one thing to say to him, and that is, don't touch the hair.
So this is the Ron Paul blimp.
It's going to be a revolution. It'll be a revolution.
Voters seem to be looking for change, the bastards.
Vote for me.
The election is holding the world's attention. The diversity of candidates is unprecedented, with many historic firsts.
And while the field of candidates has been winnowed down, this group of characters has provided some compelling moments.
What it takes to pursue the presidency is a lot of stamina, a good deal of experience, the ability to raise money, the willingness to take a risk, the ability to bring people to listen to what you have to say and deliver a message with great credibility. So other than that, it's a piece of cake.
The candidates, that's an accident of history, that we have all these able, in some cases remarkably charismatic, and in some cases new candidates. Barack Obama, where did he come from? He's amazing. It's a great story in every way.
I did not choose to run because I thought it was somehow owed to me. I decided to run because of what Dr. King called the fierce urgency of now.
You've got an eclectic group of people. Barack Obama, there's an aspect, many aspects of Barack Obama that transcend race. And there are 10 reasons to love Hillary and 10 reasons to hate Hillary before you even get to woman.
So our next president has to be ready to lead on day one, has to be ready to make the tough decisions that are waiting and those that are unexpected and unpredicted.
She's one of those people like Evita and Oprah. She only needs a first name to be known. She doesn't, there's not a lot of minds to change. Most people know her and most people have made up their minds.
None of us are divided in our support of the brave young Americans who are serving this nation in uniform and for our military today in America. They are the best of us.
I think John McCain has the best story, has the best rationale for it to be president, has the best experience. He's a great insurgent candidate, and I marveled at his candidacy in 2000, just watching him.
So how did we get here? How do we pick nominees for the presidency? The primary system.
It's it's really breathtaking when you think of the smoke-filled rooms, a handful of party leaders choosing a nominee, to where we are now, where you have the traditional early caucuses and primaries, essentially Iowa, New Hampshire, and now South Carolina.
I think it's important to begin in a small state for someone running for president, where you have to encounter people in their living rooms and you have to explain yourself and you have to answer a lot of questions. I think that's enormously healthy for our democracy.
I tease some Iowans. I say, you know, I courted my wife and got an acceptance on a marriage proposal in less time than Iowans are willing to commit on a caucus vote. You know, they're kind of very deliberate in their process.
They force you to get down to the grassroots and to campaign really with people. And I'm a great believer in that.
Oh, yeah, I have a way with these babies. Thank you, my friend. Yes, honey, yes, yes.
But there's always been controversy surrounding the early states. Why should they get to play such a large role?
In a rational world, we wouldn't start this process in Iowa, New Hampshire, or for that matter, in any particular state. Unfortunately, neither one of the states is a particular cross-section of the country.
Iowa and New Hampshire aren't really representative of the rest of the nation.
What? You don't think all of America looks like all the people that we're seeing here today? No? Yeah, it is a problem. Not just because Iowa and New Hampshire have, majority white, majority, sort of rural demographics, which doesn't reflect the nation, but also because the way that the system works, there are tons of people in all kinds of demographics who just never get to have their say at the beginning of the process.
Deserve it or not, the citizens of these states have a tremendous influence.
I mean, in a way, they're almost like political hostage takers. They get more grandiose with the day.
The problem here in New Hampshire is we keep to ourselves. We don't open up. We're not probably as friendly as people in other parts of the country, and we don't trust the media, I'm afraid.
Well, yeah, John Edwards spent the night at my house, and yeah, we hosted him for dinner 3 times, but he's never been in my hot tub. And until he gets in my hot tub, I'm not giving him my support. I mean, they really demand a huge amount from these poor candidates who have to be obliging by definition.
It's very tough to be walking around New Hampshire without a coat on.
If you can't take New Hampshire without a coat on, you don't believe it. You don't belong in the presidency, is my philosophy.
Campaigning is grueling. Any tips for surviving?
You gotta learn how to sleep in a car. I mean, that'll help. If you can manage to get even a few minutes of real sleep, it can make a difference. It does for me.
But the good news? The good news about the primary process is it weeds out the weak. You've got to be one tough human being to make it through the primaries, and they are. Every single one of those guys, whether you like them or not, is tougher than you are. No doubt. Tougher than I am, that's for sure.
Many thought the process would choose nominees early, but how did it all work out? Let's start with Iowa.
Optimism won the day, with underdogs Barack Obama and Mike Huckabee beating out their opponents.
And tonight, it starts here in Iowa, but it doesn't end here. It goes all the way through the other states. It ends at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
This is a guy who 90 days ago had no support whatsoever. He wasn't even second tier, he was third tier.
I wasn't surprised by Huckabee because Huckabee and Obama sort of radiated authenticity, and Romney and Hillary and Edwards seemed a little slick.
Thank you.
Edwards unexpectedly took second place from Hillary Clinton.
Senator Edwards, for example, was here he ran 4 years ago and never left. So he's been here for a long time.
Casualties of this first contest were Senators Chris Dodd and Joe Biden. But New Hampshire upstaged Iowa with an entirely different electorate, turning out surprising results. John McCain specifically targeted this state and was a force to be reckoned with.
And tonight, I just felt like there was a light switch that went off, and people were saying, you know what? Not only is he the one who's going to win the Republican nomination, but he's the one who could be our President of the United States. And I think not only can he be the President of the United States, he's somebody that everybody can be proud of, Republicans and Democrats.
His victory stopped Huckabee's momentum and upstaged Mitt Romney, whose campaign had raised expectations too high.
Tough job, somebody's got to do it. He wanted to be national, he wanted to take this fight everywhere.
Romney's expectations are high in Iowa, but they're also high in New Hampshire. In a way, is he waging a two-front war here?
Well, I mean, he's running a traditional campaign where you run everywhere
His problem is that he's running against candidates who aren't trying to run everywhere. And Iowa comes first, New Hampshire comes second.
He won neither. On the Democratic side, presumed frontrunner Hillary Clinton was lagging behind in the polls, but she made a sudden comeback after a shift in her strategy.
If I were her campaign strategy and say, look, the experience thing and the inevitability arguments, they're out the window. And we're going to have to find ourselves a new approach, and we're going to have to go after Barack Obama. And we're going to have to expose some of the flaws and failings and shortcomings, and we got to find a state where we can beat him and break the momentum.
She succeeded.
And despite coming in second in Iowa, John Edwards played third fiddle to the media-hyped rivalry between Obama and Clinton.
I think that a lot of people who might have watched the news before might have not even known that there were any more than two candidates in this race, honestly. And if you watch the talking heads, you might have easily thought that.
Casualties of New Hampshire were Governor Bill Richardson and Congressman Dennis Kucinich.
We'll be back.
Iowa's just kind of classic Americana. New Hampshire's the most independent and unique, different. South Carolina's the toughest and the meanest.
South Carolina proved to be a turning point for Obama. The Clinton campaign was accused of trying to divide the electorate along racial lines.
South Carolina has had a history of this since the 1890s. So it was not put into the campaign by the Clintons, but they certainly took advantage of it.
How does Obama compete with the Clinton machine, and is that machine fallible?
Well, the way Obama competes is by expanding the electorate. What he did in Iowa was bring in a lot of young people, a lot of independents, and a lot of first-time caucus goers. If you look at core Democratic constituencies, partisan Democrats, older voters, lower-income voters, Clinton and Obama were very competitive, but on sort of the expanded electorate constituencies, he dominated, and that could be very tough for her.
Whatever Clinton's strategy, it failed, and turnout was a record high in Barack Obama's favor.
He's gotten more votes and more delegates than any other candidate in the first 4 states. East, West, Midwestern state and a Southern state. And, however they try and spin it, the numbers don't lie.
After suffering devastating attacks in South Carolina in 2000, John McCain prevailed this time around in a slightly friendlier Republican contest. Is this different than 2000?
Yes, the issues are different. John has a network he didn't have in 2000. You've got veterans, you got evangelical Christians, you've got every demographic, you've got retirees. It's a microcosm of social and fiscal conservatism. It's a state that really is focused on the commander-in-chief aspect of being president. So I think it really, in many ways, will be outcome determinative for many of the candidates.
As soon as somebody catches fire in the early states, it shifts everything everywhere else. So whoever catches fire in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina will change everything in New Jersey, Florida, and California.
But McCain's got the momentum with this win.
Well, with this win on top of New Hampshire, because the Republicans are trying to figure out where they are. And this is usually a very disciplined party. McCain is the one person who can win because he transcends that. So the question is when the Republican Party decides whether it wants to lose, because it looks like it's been kind of a suicide kick this year, or whether it wants to do something about winning,
South Carolina was the last stop for Fred Thompson, Duncan Hunter, and surprisingly native son John Edwards.
Next up was Florida, which was the centerpiece of Rudy Giuliani's strategy. He had skipped the early states and lacked momentum as a result. Traditional political strategy sort of dictates that you kind of have to run in New Hampshire and Iowa ahead of time, no?
He's not going to be tied down to where Mitt Romney wants to run or where John McCain wants to run. He's showing that he's a national candidate. Rudy will be standing on January 29th in Florida, and that's when he's into his turf, and that's when the campaign will turn.
But he ignored the conventional wisdom about the importance of the early states, something John McCain understood very well.
Since 1980, the candidate who has won 2 of the first 3 primaries, Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, has been the nominee of the party.
And with Florida, the senator made one more giant step, knocking Giuliani out of the race.
The Democratic Party punished Florida, along with Michigan, for holding their primaries early, removing all of their delegates and asking candidates not to campaign there. However, in a controversial move, Hillary Clinton kept her name on the ballot and claimed victory in both.
I want to start by mentioning that today my campaign has put out a statement asking our delegates to vote to seat delegates from Michigan and Florida. You know, other campaigns have tried to downplay the significance of these two states, and I think that is not a good strategy for Democrats or for any of us who care about the outcome of this election.
The largest number of delegates were up for grabs on Super Tuesday. With 22 states holding their contests simultaneously, it was a truly national election.
I mean, it's Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, you're all over the place. I mean, New York has moved up its primary now a month too. You know, these are major states.
How does a candidate campaign nationwide?
Playing?
Yeah, is that it?
I think it's that. When you get later in the primaries, when you have primaries in many states, candidates will fly from airport to airport to airport just to be able to hit the local media in that market, and then fly on to the next one.
What's it like to be campaigning with a senator on Super Tuesday?
Very exciting, and particularly because this campaign has really come back. People have taken a second look at all the candidates and decided John McCain is the one they trust to be their president.
Not everyone lined up behind John McCain. He encountered pushback from a faction of the Republican Party led by Rush Limbaugh and Ann Coulter, questioning his conservative credentials.
I call it the hazing process. In politics, you have a Cinderella process. You're on the cover of magazines, ooh-ah, everything, oh, this is great. And then comes, okay, now we're going to whack you down, like you do in the amusement park. Show your head up, get up, and we're going to whack you. And everything you do is going to get criticized. And they examine your record and throw it at you. And how you handle it is what people want to know. And in politics, especially on the national level, what doesn't destroy you will strengthen you.
Mitt Romney underestimated Mike Huckabee's support.
In the February 5th states, if you take a look at them, we're leading in Georgia, Alabama, Arkansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Montana, Delaware, and I can go on. I mean, we're doing well in all those other states. I've always said I don't think the national pundits get this race yet, and we're going to prove them wrong just like we've always done.
The former Arkansas governor defied expectations with surprise showings that split the conservative vote and led Romney to suspend his campaign.
With Edwards out, the Obama-Clinton deadlock was closer than ever.
A lot has been made of Super Duper Tsunami Mega Tuesday. It may not actually be decisive. We may have to carry on to Texas and beyond. What do you think about that?
I think if there's anything people are willing to predict about tonight, it's that it doesn't end tonight. Usually this is over by now. And the fact that, and I think it's happening because we have two good candidates. And Democrats are excited. They're actually ambivalent in a good way. They kind of like both of them. That's one of the reasons it's so unpredictable, because people are like, oh gosh, I like Hillary, I like Obama, and they go with their gut at the last minute. That's one of the reasons the polls have been so unpredictable. So I think it's going to continue on, and you can keep trotting around the country interviewing political operatives for quite a while.
Clinton and Obama essentially split the votes, yielding no clear frontrunner, but both emerged confident that they could parlay their wins into momentum for the next round of contests.
Any change in strategy?
No, why would we change? We're winning everywhere. Hillary Clinton proved she can win anywhere in the country tonight.
Well, Hillary Clinton is a formidable person. She has the most famous and successful political name and brand of our generation in the Democratic Party. So she came into this race as essentially as an incumbent, and the expectation was, and it was fueled by her campaign, that she would mow through this race like a knife through butter. And I don't think that was ever true.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Many thought Super Tuesday would determine the nominees for both parties.
And while the Republicans essentially have, the Democrats have a little ways to go.
March 4th may be the new Super Tuesday for Democrats.
If this February 5th date doesn't have a definitive winner, then you might have another one of those in March, and you'll have other opportunities for states to band together and have other regional or mega primaries.
Hence the Potomac primary, which further solidified John McCain's presumed nomination and tipped the scales in Barack Obama's favor.
If you are not willing to settle for what the cynics tell you you have to accept, but instead are willing to reach for what is possible, then I guarantee you we will win this nomination, we will win the general election, and you and I together, we will march into the future, and we will transform this country, and we will transform the world. Thank you. Let's go get to work.
Still, the Democrats remained in deadlock, looking for the Texas and Ohio primaries to be a tiebreaker. If not, the voters fear that a backroom deal or that superdelegates will decide between the two candidates.
Everybody obviously wants to get in good with the superdelegates and get their votes, and superdelegates aren't committed. I mean, they commit to somebody, but by the rules, they could vote however they want. That's right, they can't change their minds, and that's one of the sort of parlor games people are playing, is this going to come down to superdelegates in the end? You know, it's possible, but we've got to wait and see how these primaries go.
While nothing ever goes as expected in American politics, this primary season proved to be one of the most exciting we've ever had. And it revealed not only a lot about the people running, but also showed how complex the electoral process can be.
Thanks for watching.
Stay tuned for more political coverage from IFC News, Uncut.
For more Uncut election coverage and our blog, check out ifc.com.
Governor, this is the Independent Film Channel. Is there one film about American politics that you particularly appreciate? One film about politics that you love?
Oh my gosh, one film? Give me some options.
The Candidates?
Candidate's not bad.
What's the one, the Manchurian Candidate?
Yeah, the Manchurian Candidate. I think 310 to Yuma is probably the best.
And what are you doing, Governor?
Oh man, this is the time of year, and I would have nothing but a major politico ultimate soiree of politicians, journalists, and every other kind of imaginable consultant you can put together in one room in Iowa on 2007, coming into the 2008 Iowa caucus. Where else would you be other than here?
And that translates to an awful lot of rayon in one room.
Oh, thanks.
Have a good 2008.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys. I do appreciate that.